Welcome back to the Subspace Games YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at feedback and how it can help in the iterative, I always have a problem with that word, iterative game development process. And kind of this is, when I was thinking about this project originally, this is the kind of interaction that I was hoping for and that I look forward to. So I'm here at my website, subspacegames.com. It forwards you over to indiegamesdev.blogspot.com, so don't get confused by that. It's the same place. And on the links at the top, you'll notice that we have the game prototype, code at GitHub, whatnot. In the forum is where most of the feedback that I have comes from. And I hope he doesn't mind me pointing this out, but I did have some great feedback from a user named Kronos, and so I just wanted to show you, how you can come in and leave some feedback and how it can be a big help. So the first thing he mentions is some of the kinks in the physics, and I don't know if you've noticed it. I've noticed it a few times. If you shoot the ball straight up in the air, because we're doing a check on the speed. And the speed can be relatively low when you do something like that. The ball almost tends to float because when I turn on the dampening, which makes the ball slow down, it looks kind of funny. So in thinking about his point there, it made me realize that what we could do is not only do a speed check, but only do a speed check when the y value of our velocity is very, very small. Because it's going to be on the ground, it'll be at 0. So if it's very small, it means the ball is rolling along the ground, and that's a good time to apply the dampening so that the ball will come to a rest. The second thing is that he talked about the poly trail, and I mentioned this in my last video. Originally, I had paused the poly trail before I moved the ball back to the starting point, and then I didn't turn it back on until I clicked the button. Well, because of the way the physics works and everything, the ball actually gets launched, and the poly trail doesn't kick in until maybe a frame or two later. By that time, the ball's kind of past where it should be. I fixed that. What I did is actually, let's go ahead and open up ShiVa so I can show you how I put that into effect. Now, it works for when we're resetting the ball, but we still need to tweak. I still need to tweak the teleporter. So you'll notice that this kind of a thing happens in the teleporter. But basically what I did is in the ball AI on reset. So rather than start the effects back up once the ball is getting launched again, what I did is on this, I have this reset function here that's a handler. And I pause the effects, and then I translate the ball, I move it back to the origin, and then I start the effects right then, so that the effects are just going until I launch the ball, and that way as soon as you launch it, it's you don't have to wait for the trail to happen. And so on the teleporter, what I'll most likely end up having to do is as the ball is entering the first teleport, I'm going to have to record the velocity of the ball, stop the effects, move it over to the other location, and I'll have to turn the effects back on and reapply the velocity, so that way it seems to be if the ball's already in motion before you turn the effects on, that's when you get that delay. And so I wasn't doing anything before. I was just translating it and letting the current velocity of the ball carry over to the other one. I think I'm going to have to switch that around. So that's it he had for some of the flaws, but then so that he had 3 points that he wanted to bring up, things that he would like to see in the game. And I thought this was a really good one. So the first one is he says a HUD component to where there's kind of like a little meter that's constantly going up and down, and you have to tap it. You have to time it so that when you tap it, you've got full power. So it's going to be a power indicator for the ball. And so if you hit it at the wrong time, then your ball doesn't go as fast or whatever. I thought this was a great idea because originally I wanted to have it so that you could set the power of the ball. So if you want it to go slow, you could set low and high. But that's back when I was doing something a little different with the game. When it got to where it is now, I realized, why would anybody set the power low? because the idea is you want to make it all the way through the level. So you want to set the power high. So what's the point? But I like his idea because it adds a little bit more difficulty to the game, a little more interaction. And so I'm going to work on doing that at some point, is having that meter that goes up and down where you can hit it, and if you time it just right, you'll get full power. Second thing he said was having some kind of power-ups. And this is a good idea. So, and it's something I had thought about already, and this just reinforces what I was thinking and made me realize that I probably should put it in the game. But you know, if you have the ability to collect things along the way, it makes it a little bit more exciting than just you know, trying to get to the end. So I was thinking at some point, and I didn't know if I was going to do this in a separate version, or not a version, but a separate play mode or what, but having hoops. And so in one play mode, the idea isn't necessarily to get to the end, but it's to make sure that you get through all the hoops. So then it becomes a challenge because you have to get to the end by following a certain path. And that would be a lot more challenging than just getting to the end no matter how you want to do it. But we could also have hoops that are in the regular gameplay that gives you extra points. Or, you know, he was talking about maybe hitting something that would you know, send you off, shoots you in the direction it points you, is what he says. And I had thought about doing that in a cannon form, but I kind of like the hoop idea better because it's a little bit easier to implement, and I think it'll be more exciting. But we could also have stuff like, I don't know, maybe something that's, well, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. If you guys have any good comments on that, what you would like to see in the form of power-ups or things to make things a little more exciting, let me know. I was also thinking about having like little hidden areas where you get certain achievements for getting into that area. It doesn't help you to finish that level, but when you find these little areas, it gives you like a little, you know, one-up or something, who knows. And the last thing that he puts, and he says this is the one he wants to see the most, it's you know, some kind of a menu. So when you first get into the game, having a menu where you can select different modes or whatever. And I know a lot of people are curious to see this, and I'm curious to do it. I think right now what I'm working most on is making sure that the game is playable from the mechanic standpoint and getting that all straightened out. And then we're going to go back and make the levels look nice and you know, do some level design and add the menus and all the fluff. I call it fluff, but I mean it really is integral to the game. But having like a splash screen when you start up and all that is going to happen as we get the gameplay going. So I definitely appreciate his feedback there. We'll definitely have something along those lines, maybe some settings that you can change in different play modes. One of the things I'll let you know now, one of the things I thought about is a different play mode, and not only the different hoops, but also have a level where there isn't any ceilings, walls, or floors or anything. It's just objects. And so you have to position these objects, but then the ball is not going to bounce off anything else. So you have to make it to the end using only objects. So that would be obviously a higher difficulty level because you can't rely on the walls and the floors and ceilings and things like that. So I just wanted to point this out because out of all the things that have happened so far with creating the game, I think this is one of the greatest things that have happened, be able to get this kind of feedback. Because it helps to make the game better. And I think when a lot of indie game developers do games, you know, if they're smart, and most of them are, because I hear a lot of, when I read or listen to the interviews, they do a lot of this where they do the play testing and they're constantly looking for feedback and they want to know how to make the game better. And sometimes the game changes radically because it's just not as fun the way they originally planned it. And I definitely don't want to just focus on Chronos and say that other people haven't given me some great feedback. I've definitely had some great feedback from, you know, Shando and the other guys in the forum. But I just really liked the way Chronos focused in and gave me, you know, here's what I'd like to see and here's some of the things that you probably need to fix. And it just was really great as far as teaching me what I need to focus on and giving me that positive reinforcement of things that I had already thought about doing. So that's what we're going to be working on in the future. I'll call attention to it when I put it into the game so we can see, you know, this is something that came from feedback. I apologize if this video is a little long-winded and maybe it was a little boring because we didn't do any game stuff. But I really wanted to focus on this. This video series is more about just using Shiva. It's also about game design. And I think it's important that we look at how do we put a game together, and how do we make it so that it's not just that little kernel of an idea that originally started out with, but we see how it changes over time to become a really great game. So if you'd like to contribute, if you'd like to interact with me and to be able to, make some of this feedback, I can't promise that I'm going to do all the stuff, because obviously there needs to be kind of a point at which you're not going to get any more complicated than it is. The playability needs to come first, and then maybe in another version of the game we'll add on some of the features that you guys come up with. But anything that definitely I can see makes the game a better game, I'm going to put it in place, and I appreciate that feedback. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and the next time we'll be getting more into what we're going to do in the game, and we'll see you then.